Now, it's always tricky to decide whether to make your frame first or to make your various parts and then put them together. I find, especially when you're beginning with your felting, to be able to make the legs on their own without the body in the way while you twist them and turn them is easier. But it's also obviously a matter of preference. Once you've had a go at it a few, then you'll get your own idea as to what you prefer to do. So we have today 4 legs and a head, and this neck here, which is coming out. So what we're going to do, choose your 2 shortest legs that you've got for the front legs. So I'm going to choose those 2 slightly more sturdy. Those can be for the back and these can be for the front. So I'm going to, as we said earlier, bend it at the top there. So you're going to bend it at the top. If you're wondering how long that is for me, that is around 9 centimetres. So we're just thinking of around 3 inches, possibly slightly more. And we're going to bend. So the deer does have a neck, and then it's going to come straight out like that. So if you want your deer obviously eating or looking down, then you would shape it, especially if you're doing the sitting position, it's going to be slightly different for you. If you're doing the sitting position, you're going to make sure you have your deer's head slightly facing down, the neck, and then the body, and it'll just do a nice lump of body. You don't have to really worry about this leg fixing business. So if you do a standing deer, we've got 2 now at right angles. You're going to attach them, and let's get that well out of the way so you can see. Wrap that around there. So wrapping the leg pipe cleaner around the neck pipe cleaner. If I hold it head on there, you can see. And then I've got the other leg there. It's Bandy. Instead of Bambi, he's going to be called Bandy, I think. There we are. So once you've got that roughly the same height, you can do the same. Wrap it around there like that. So you've now got the 2 legs coming out the front with that back there. For the back legs, you can then just put them together, twist them together, bend them down slightly outwards like that, and as you make the body, fit it on. Now, because this deer is in quite a simple standing position, we can maneuver it as we make it so that she's facing forward, she's facing down, galloping, gambling. We can experiment later with the legs because they're posable. There, we've made them with these wonderful pipe cleaners, so we can do what we like with them later. So it doesn't really matter if your back bone here isn't going to be intact with the legs here. So you could just make up your core body and then just fit those legs on. If you do, however, want to make sure that they're all really integral, you can get another piece of wire or another little pipe cleaner and attach it on and then trim it off because it's going to be too long on its own. So I've got it there. Tap it up between those 2 legs. And it will take just a little bit of adjustment here just to make sure those back legs aren't going to be too high. I'm going to fold it over and then back along the backbone. And have a little check on the drawing that I've given you to see what length the back should be. For me, that is looking too long and I'm going to foreshorten it. But once we're ready, then we can get ready with our core wool and start to cover. So let's start with the neck and work our way down. if you've got a nice thick needle, pink, bright pink, which is a twisted. So that's a really nice one to use, a 38 twist. And I always quite like to just give myself a little bit of going for it felting just on the mat here. I can really just go for it. I don't need to worry about the shape here. I'm just creating a nice wad of felt to work with. There we go. So it's all together a little bit, and I can now pop that on the body like that and wrap it nice and tight. And around we go. It's a good idea early on to go through those back legs so they're not going to wobble around too much. So it's most ungainly at this moment. He's got a little bit like he's got a nappy on at the moment, and I'm going to tuck that in with my light blue needle. I'm going down to my light blue needle. The pink one will catch those pipe cleaners. You can guarantee it. So there we are. I'm going to put that in place all the way around. In a similar sort of way, tease out a scarf and wrap it around the neck. So a slightly thinner piece. I was going to do the neck first, but I took too much wool and realised that I had to do the body first. You might have spotted that. So there we go. So this is a slightly, still long, but a thinner piece. That's going to go around my neck. Pop it round there. Props to hold it in place. So at this point I will pause the video because I'm just going to be prodding away at my shape here, and I'm going to be solidifying the neck, and I'm going to be working on the body so it's all nice and integral. And you can see already those legs are doing whatever they want to. This is the thing, as soon as you get the legs on there and you've got wires there, it's very easy for them to keep getting wiggled and moved, which is why I quite like to actually get the legs looking right, all next to each other in a line. You can see that they're similar widths. The knees are all at the same height before attaching them. So I will see you in a minute when you have got this nicely prodded in and firm, and we can start to colour up. So here is my deer. Slightly firmed up, not totally hard, and I'm going to start thinking about a little bit more shaping now. So these back haunches, if you see when it's sitting down, this deer, it's got a nice, large, powerful back haunch, so it can really spring into the air when it needs to. So we'll make sure that these bits are nicely built up. So by adding a little bit of core wool, and you can do this in small bits if you're a little bit uncertain at first. So make sure that your leg is in the right position. Tuck it right over. What you want to do is get a nice smooth transition. So you're just adding it in a thin layer at first and letting it get thicker, as opposed to adding one big ball in one clump, which will stand out obviously as an add-on. So we want to really just mould this in. Work my way round, up and over. And firm it down nicely. If I need to add more, we may do. But just so that haunch now has got a nice large curve to it as opposed to looking too spindly. And I shall do the same on the other side. And you can emphasize that join there too. So emphasize where the joint would be by going in a little bit at the tummy. So you can see hopefully that that little bit of shadowing can show up. You can do it a little bit at the front as well if you need. And once you're happy with your body, we're ready to colour up. So here is the picture of a few different variations of colouring. And you may have noticed that some of the pictures look very much darker browns, some look more gingery almost. Well, these are not all totally the same deer. I found them and used them because of the different positions that they're in. So anybody wanting to do the sitting deer, this gives a lovely idea of the knees coming forward. And this one down here shows the back colorations beautifully. However, these are actually silke deer, which is the Japanese deer found in Asia. But they were introduced to England in the 1860s. So we do have quite a few over here in Scotland, the New Forest, Dorset, coniferous forests is where they hang out. And they're very much like our fallow deer. The colouring in the summer is very similar because they have this speckledy effect, which is so attractive. The one way of telling the difference is this one is a fallow deer because you can see it's got a black line going down its tail, and the silke deer have white tails. So that is the only difference to notice from a distance. Anyway, if you're an expert, there are other things that you can look out for. The females don't have horns, only the males do. But anyway, for my colouring, I'm going to copy this colouring here. You can go to slightly browner and fawns if you fancy, whatever you've got in your pot. But I'm going to be introducing some of these gingers and having a little bit of fun with my blending. So these are the colours that I have chosen today for my top of my back. As you can see, I might even add a little bit of this ginger in here too. So I'm going to use them in differing amounts. So this one here is a merino, so very sparingly with that. That's just going to give it a little bit of ping and zing as I blend that in. This one's a really nice, it's just a Bergschaft. It's going to be a good covering wool. As you can see, it's quite bulky. That's going to be really lovely. This is the same colour, sienna, but in a merino. You could equally continue with the brown that you used for your legs, and in fact I'm going to be blending that brown, especially with some of these, so that I don't get two colorations going from my legs to my back. So the main fun is going to be on the back, putting in that stripe and the little dots either side. So let's start making up a little bit of blend. I'm going to start with this brown here and work up from the top of the legs. I'm going to introduce just a little bit of this ginger here. So just introduce it a little bit at a time. And maybe some of this one too, like a honey colour. And that way we can have a gradual change from the legs into the back. We don't want a tied line as though he's been standing in a pot of paint. Ideally. Or she, I think it's going to be a she. So that's a little bit of a blend there. I'm going to blend some more so that I get the colourway similar, but I'm always tend to blend in small amounts. It helps you get rid of big clusters and clumps. Sometimes you can get burrs or some wool that just doesn't want to separate from itself. So just doing it in small clumps makes it more manageable, I find. There we are, there's one of those little bumps. I can find it and root it out quite nicely. There we go. So with this brown I'm going to be working up the legs over the joints here. I'm not going to be going down that front at the moment. Down that front we're going to add some lovely creams later. You can work down from the head as well. So when we were working on the head, we did that as quite a pale colour, and it sort of had some creams mixed into it. So as you're mixing there, blend in a little bit more of your cream again. All our animals will be slightly different, as in fact these deer are, depending on what time of year you see them. So they're beautifully coloured during the summer months, and in the winter they tend to go duller and more brown, I imagine, to camouflage better with the undergrowth being all brown in the winter time. So there we are. I've put it on as a nice thin layer on the back leg, working its way down, so there's an overlap of the browns. Pulling it down, trying to avoid that tide mark, which is easier to do with a wool like this, being the Corriedale, because it really does have just a little bit of texture to it. The really, really small, smooth wools can create lines a little bit more easily and obviously. So as we work up here, I'm going to be focusing on covering my deer with this blend that I've made. So it's going to be the same brown this side, same brown that side, coming in and joining at the tummy. The underneath bit here is going to be a lighter blend mixed with cream. Down here is going to be cream as well. So don't do all over in brown straight away. Likewise, on the back, I'm going to be introducing some more of those gingers and mustards. So at first, let's just do the side panel here, not worrying about the tummy or the chest or the back.